You know that classic advice? Go to school, get a good job. That's the path to financial security.
Yeah, it's pretty much baked into our culture, isn't it?
It really is. And, well, you sent us Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which kind of suggests you're maybe looking past that conventional wisdom, thinking about other ways to build wealth.
Right. And that's exactly what this book tackles head on.
So that's what we're doing in this deep dive. We look at the sources you're curious about, pull out the core ideas, the really important stuff.
Kind of a shortcut to understanding the main takeaways without getting totally lost in the weeds.
Exactly. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad is, well, it's a great one for this because it just directly challenges those traditional ideas about jobs and money.
It really does. The whole book is built around this contrast, isn't it? Between his highly educated poor dad with the traditional views.
Right, the government employee.
And then the entrepreneurial rich dad.
Yeah.
And looking at how those different ways of thinking, those philosophies, can lead to totally different financial outcomes.
It's about shifting your mindset, really. You mentioned wanting those aha moments, the insights that actually make you think differently about your finances.
Yeah, cutting through the noise.
Well, Rich Dad, Poor Dad definitely delivers on that. So our goal here is to unpack those key principles for you. You know, the stuff that can help anyone boost their financial smarts, maybe move towards financial freedom, get better at investing.
It's all about changing how you approach money, fundamentally.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The first big idea, the one that really sets the scene, is this claim. The rich don't work for money.
Which sounds, I mean, completely backwards at first glance, doesn't it?
Totally. How can that be right? But let's unpack where he's coming from with that.
Okay, so the book starts with young Robert and his friend Mike, right? They want to get rich. Simple enough goal for kids.
Yeah, relatable. So they ask their dads for advice. And the difference is, well, immediate.
The poor dad, the academic one, gives the standard advice. Study hard, get good grades, find a secure job.
The advice we all heard, probably.
Pretty much. But then the rich dad, Mike's father, he offers something different. He says, okay, come work for me.
But for like almost no money, right? 10 cents an hour or something ridiculously low?
Exactly. It wasn't about the wage. He was setting up a lesson.
And Kiyosaki talks about how frustrating that was. Working hard, dusting cans for weeks, feeling like he wasn't learning anything about getting rich.
Understandably. So he finally confronts the rich dad.
And that confrontation, that frustration, that was the lesson.
That was the first big lesson, according to the rich dad. The feeling of being pushed around by life, financially speaking.
You mean like you work hard, but your money just seems to vanish? Taxes, bills, paying your boss?
Exactly. You're working, but who are you really working for? The government gets a cut, the bill collectors get theirs, your boss profits. It's what Kiyosaki calls the rat race.
That endless cycle of working just to pay the bills, maybe getting a raise, spending more, needing another raise.
Yeah, just running faster on the hamster wheel. So the core of this first lesson is that just trading your time for a paycheck, no matter how big, keeps you stuck in that race. It doesn't automatically build wealth if the money just flows straight back out.
Okay, so if the rich aren't primarily focused on working for that paycheck, how do they get rich? What's the alternative?
Right, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer, according to Kiyosaki, is simple but profound. They make their money work for them.
Instead of being the one doing all the work.
Their money does the heavy lifting. They focus on acquiring things that generate income on their own. Assets.
Okay, assets. Let's nail down that definition because Kiyosaki's take is pretty specific and maybe not what everyone thinks.
It's super important, yeah. His definition is really straightforward. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket.
Okay, puts money in.
And a liability, anything that takes money out of your pocket. Simple as that.
Seems simple, but when you start applying it, things get interesting. Like the classic example, your house.
Ah, yes, the house debate. Most people think of their home as their biggest asset, right? The American dream.
Absolutely. But Kiyosaki throws a wrench in that, doesn't he?
He does. He argues that for most people, their primary residence is actually a liability.
How so?
Well, think about it. Does your house consistently put money in your pocket every month? Usually it's the opposite. You've got the mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, upkeep, repair.
Money going out, out, out.
Right. And then there's the opportunity cost, that big down payment, all those monthly payments that money could potentially be invested somewhere else, something that does generate income.
So he's not saying don't buy a house necessarily, but just recognize it usually fits his definition of a liability, not an income-generating asset.
Exactly, from that specific cash flow perspective.
Yeah.
So the poor dad mindset, and often the middle class, tends to focus on earning income mainly to cover expenses and pay for liabilities.
Like the house, the car payments, credit cards.
Yeah. Working hard to maintain a certain lifestyle, but maybe not having much left over to actually buy those things that put money back in their pockets.
Whereas the rich dad approach is different.
Completely. The focus shifts to acquiring assets first. Things like stocks that pay dividends, bonds that pay interest, maybe rental properties, bringing in rent checks.
Stuff that generates income passively.
Precisely. Their main goal isn't just a bigger paycheck. It's growing that asset column, the part of their financial picture that generates income for them.
And the key is keeping those liabilities and expenses low.
That's crucial because that frees up cash, frees up capital that you can then use to buy more income-producing assets.
So you manage the outflow to maximize the inflow from investments.
You got it. You build this sort of financial engine where your money starts working for you, generating more money, which you can then reinvest. It creates this compounding effect over time. That's how real wealth is built, according to Kiyosaki.
Well, okay, that makes sense. But what about someone listening who's thinking, great, buy assets, but I'm just starting out, or maybe struggling to make ends meet. How do I even begin? He's not saying quit your job tomorrow, right?
Yeah, definitely not. That's a common misconception, which leads perfectly into his third lesson. Mind your own business.
Okay, mind your own business. Sounds a bit blunt. What does he mean by that in this context? It's not about telling people to butt out, is it?
Uh-huh. No, not like that. Minding your own business here means focusing on building your asset column. It's about dedicating time and energy to activities that generate income through assets, even while you still have your regular job.
Ah, so it's about distinguishing between your job, your profession, and your business, which is your collection of assets.
Exactly. Your job pays the bills, it provides the income, the seed money, maybe. But your business is what you're building on the side, the thing that will eventually generate wealth independently. They're separate things.
Your profession is what you do, your business is what you own.
Perfect way to put it. Your profession funds your business, essentially. Kiyosaki gives that example from when he was a kid, right, with the comic books.
Oh yeah, the comic book library.
He didn't just read them. He realized they were an asset. He charged other kids to read them, even hired his friend's sister to manage it. He wasn't doing the day-to-day work. He set up a system where the asset generated income. That was his first business.
Even as a kid, that entrepreneurial mindset, and he carried that forward, didn't he? Like when he worked for Xerox and Standard Oil.
Absolutely. He had those stable corporate jobs, but he lived below his means. He deliberately kept his expenses low so he could take his salary and plow it into buying assets, real estate initially, I think.
So the job provided the cash flow, but the real focus, the long-term goal, was building that asset portfolio.
That's the heart of lesson 3. Your salary keeps you going day to day, but it's the growth of your assets, your business, that leads to financial freedom. Your assets become like little employees, working 24/7 to make money for you, even when you're sleeping.
That idea of assets as employees, that's powerful. Now, another area where Kiyosaki really shakes things up is taxes and using legal structures. His take on Robin Hood is memorable.
That is, isn't it? He talks about how his rich dad saw Robin Hood not as a hero, but basically as a thief.
Stealing from the rich to give to the poor.
Right. And the rich dad's perspective was that this idea, however well-intentioned, ultimately helped create our modern tax system, which he saw as fundamentally flawed.
Flawed idea.
Well, the idea might be to tax the rich more to help everyone else, but in practice, the rich dad argued, the burden often falls heaviest on the middle class.
Because the wealthy have more resources, more knowledge to navigate this system.
Exactly. They understand the rules better. And one of the biggest tools they use, according to Kiyosaki, is the corporation, or foreign companies.
Ah, setting up a business entity. How does that help with taxes?
It's a huge difference. As an individual employee, you earn money, you get taxed on it, then you spend what's left.
Right. Yeah, paycheck comes, taxes are already gone.
But a corporation, it earns money, it can spend money on legitimate business expenses first, and then it gets taxed on whatever profit is left over.
So expenses come out before taxes. That's a massive advantage.
Huge. Things that might be personal expenses for you could potentially be legitimate business expenses for your company, parts of your car use, home office, travel, meals, depending on the rules, of course. It allows for much greater tax efficiency.
And it's not just taxes, is it? There's another big benefit to incorporating.
Yes, absolutely crucial. Limited liability, meaning if you operate your investments or business through a corporation or an LLC, limited liability company,
Right.
it creates a legal separation, a firewall, essentially, between your business debts and liabilities and your personal assets.
So if the business gets sued or goes bankrupt.
Your personal stuff,
Yeah.
your house, your savings, your car is generally protected. Your risk is typically limited to the money you've actually put into the company.
Whereas if you're just operating as yourself, a sole proprietor, everything you own could potentially be on the line if things go wrong.
Exactly. So understanding how to use these legal structures isn't just about saving taxes. It's also a critical way to protect the wealth you're building.
So the lesson here is that financial intelligence isn't just about earning and investing. It's also about understanding the legal and tax systems to play the game effectively.
You need to know the rules to play well. And this leads right into another major point Kiyosaki hammers home.
Yeah.
The general lack of this kind of practical financial education in schools.
Yeah, he contrasts his real-world learning with the rich dad against his formal schooling, doesn't he?
Very much so. He talks about sitting in on meetings with bankers, accountants, lawyers, learning about deals, negotiations, cash flow, all while he was still quite young.
Real, practical business education.
Right, and he felt like that made traditional school, with its focus on academic subjects, seem kind of irrelevant, or at least less relevant to his goal of actually building wealth.
It's a strong critique. He argues schools teach you how to be a good employee, maybe, but not how to be financially independent or savvy.
Yeah, he points out that basic, vital concepts like saving consistently, understanding investing, the power of compound interest often get completely overlooked in the standard curriculum.
Which can lead to problems down the line, like people graduating with degrees, but also with massive credit card debt because they never learned basic money management.
Exactly. And it's not just young people. He suggests many highly educated adults, professionals, doctors, lawyers, still make surprisingly poor financial decisions because they lack that fundamental financial literacy. He even cites stats about how many people have little or no retirement savings.
It's a bit scary when you think about it. We learn calculus, but maybe not how to balance a budget or understand an investment statement.
So a huge takeaway for the book is that you can't rely on the traditional system for this knowledge. You have to actively seek out financial education yourself. It's a personal responsibility.
Okay, so if we agree we need this education, how do we get it? Does Kiyosaki offer a roadmap?
He does lay out a kind of three-step process for becoming more financially literate or financially educated.
Step 1.
First, you've got to get brutally honest with yourself. Assess your current financial situation. Really look at the numbers, what's coming in, what's going out, what you actually own versus what you owe.
No sugarcoating.
None. He uses that example of wanting a Mercedes. Don't just dream about it. Figure out honestly if you can afford it right now. Face the reality of your current numbers.
Okay, reality check first. What's step 2?
Once you know where you stand, you can set realistic financial goals. Not just vague wishes like be rich, but specific, measurable targets with a time frame.
Like instead of I want a Mercedes, it's I will figure out how to generate the income or save enough to afford that Mercedes in, say, 5 years.
Exactly. He mentions his wife, Kim, wanting a particular car and how they used income from an apartment building investment they built up over 4 years to eventually buy it. It's about setting concrete goals based on your financial plan.
Makes sense. Assess, then set goals. What's the third step?
The third step is the ongoing part. Actively build your financial acumen, your financial intelligence.
Right.
This means investing your time and maybe some money in learning how money works. He suggests things like maybe taking short-term jobs, not for the pay, but for the skills you can learn.
Like sales or marketing experience.
Yeah, he mentions network marketing as one way, specifically for learning sales skills and building confidence, even if you don't stick with it long term. But also, importantly, reading books, taking courses, attending seminars, networking with people who are successful financially, constantly learning.
So it's an active, ongoing process of education. Assess where you are, set clear goals, and then commit to learning the skills and knowledge needed to reach them.
That's the framework he lays out. It's a practical foundation.
And building that knowledge, that intelligence, isn't quite enough on its own, is it? There's another ingredient he emphasizes.
Right. This leads into the next crucial lesson, the link between financial intelligence and courage.
Ah, courage. Because knowing what to do is one thing, but actually doing it?
That's often the harder part. Kiyosaki argues that in the world of money and investing, having the guts to take calculated risks can be even more important than just being book smart.
Why is that? Why do smart people sometimes fail financially?
Fear, primarily the fear of losing money, and also maybe the fear of what other people will think, fear of criticism, fear of failure.
That fear can be paralyzing, can it? It keeps people stuck in the rat race, afraid to step out and try investing or starting a business.
Absolutely. Even highly intelligent people can be held back by that fear of loss. It's a powerful emotion when it comes to money.
So financial intelligence, in Kiyosaki's view, isn't just IQ points or financial knowledge.
No, it's that knowledge combined with the courage to act on it, to overcome the fear and make decisions, even when there's risk involved.
And it's this combination, the smarts and the nerve, that allows the wealthy to spot opportunities others miss. Or maybe create opportunities.
That's his argument. They see potential where others see risk. They're willing to analyze the situation, understand the potential downsides, but then have the courage to act if the potential upside makes sense. It's not reckless gambling, it's informed, calculated risk-taking.
Okay, so calculated risks, what does that look like in practice? He's not saying just throw darts at a stock chart, is he?
Definitely not reckless. But he is saying that keeping all your money tucked away in a basic savings account, earning next to nothing, is also a kind of risk. The risk of losing purchasing power to inflation, the risk of never growing your wealth.
So avoiding all risk isn't the answer either.
Right. He suggests looking at investments that have higher potential returns, like stocks and bonds. Stocks obviously can be volatile, but they also offer the potential for significant growth over time.
And he mentions other things too, beyond just stocks and bonds.
Yeah, he talks about real estate, which is a big part of his own strategy. And he also brings up things like tax land certificates.
Tax lane loans, how do those work?
Basically, if someone doesn't pay their property taxes, the government can issue a lien. Investors can buy these liens, effectively paying the taxes, and then they have the potential to earn a relatively high, legally mandated interest rate from the property owner, or in some cases, even eventually acquire the property if the taxes remain unpaid.
Interesting. So potentially higher returns than a savings account.
Potentially, yes.
Mm-hmm.
He referenced rates back around 2013 being significantly higher, like maybe 16% or more in some cases, compared to bank accounts earning fractions of a percent.
But again, higher potential return usually means higher risk.
Right. Absolutely. With stocks, you could lose your entire investment.
Yeah.
With tax liens, there are complexities and risks involved too. Nothing is guaranteed.
So the point isn't which specific investment necessarily, but the willingness to step beyond the safest options.
It's about understanding that to achieve higher returns, you generally need to accept a higher level of calculated risk. You have to be willing to face the possibility of loss, learn from mistakes, and understand that managing risk, not avoiding it entirely, is key to building significant wealth.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the last big lesson we wanted to cover really loops back to the very first point about why people work. It's summed up as, work to learn, don't work for money.
Yeah, this ties everything together beautifully. He tells that story about himself after college. He got a good, secure job, exactly what his poor dad would have wanted.
Standard Oil, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Stable, good pay. But then after just 6 months or so, he quits.
Quits. To do what?
To join the Marines. Specifically to learn how to fly helicopters.
Wow. Okay, that's not the expected career path after getting a good corporate job.
Not at all. And his poor dad was baffled, probably horrified.
Yeah.
But his rich dad, he apparently congratulated him.
Why? What did the rich dad see in that decision?
He saw that Robert wasn't just chasing the next paycheck. He was prioritizing learning valuable skills, gaining experiences, broadening his knowledge base.
Even if it meant a pay cut or less stability in the short term.
Exactly. The rich dad's philosophy was always that broad knowledge across many areas, sales, marketing, finance, leadership systems, is way more valuable for building wealth than becoming super specialized in just one narrow field.
So Robert was working to learn, knowing that his assets, his business, would eventually provide the income.
That was the long-term plan.
Yeah.
His job, especially early on, was as much about skill acquisition as it was about earning money.
Which is the total opposite of the poor dad view, right? Get specialized, get your PhD, climb the ladder in one specific area.
Right. The poor dad believed academic achievement and specialization were the path. But as Kiyosaki points out, despite the PhD, his income didn't significantly increase.
Meanwhile, the rich dad, who didn't even finish 8th grade,
Built multiple successful businesses because he understood the bigger picture. He made sure Robert and Mike worked in all different parts of his companies, managing, selling, marketing, accounting, forcing them to learn a wide range of practical skills.
He wanted them to be generalists in business, not specialists.
Precisely. Leave the deep specialization to doctors or academics was the idea. For building wealth through business and investing, a broader skill set is more powerful.
So that's the final key takeaway. Focus on the learning potential of any job or experience, not just the immediate paycheck. Build skills that will help you build assets.
That's it. View your work, especially early on, as paid education. Learn skills that will serve you long after that particular job ends.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to digest. So we've really done a deep dive into the core ideas from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, let's quickly recap those main principles.
Okay. First, the rich don't work primarily for money. They make money work for them.
Second, understand financial literacy, the difference between assets and liabilities, and focus on investing in assets.
Third, mind your own business, meaning build your asset column alongside your job.
Fourth, understand taxes and legal structures, like corporations, to protect and retain your wealth.
Fifth, financial intelligence isn't just knowledge. It's knowledge combined with the courage to take calculated risks and seize opportunities.
And sixth, work to learn diverse skills, especially business skills, not just to earn a paycheck.
And Kiyosaki credits these principles for building his own significant wealth, estimated around $100 million, I believe.
That's the figure often cited, yeah.
Yeah.
Built on these foundational ideas.
So for you listening, hopefully this exploration has sparked some thoughts, maybe challenged some assumptions you had about money.
Yeah, think about how these ideas stack up against the financial advice you've maybe heard your whole life. Do they resonate? Do they clash?
Take a second to consider which of these lessons feels most relevant to you right now. Where are you in your own financial journey, and what are your goals?
And maybe, as a final thought to take away from this deep dive, what's one small, concrete step you could take this week? Something manageable, but deliberate. A step towards minding your own business, in Kiyosaki's sense, or towards boosting your own financial literacy.
Doesn't have to be huge. Just one thing to start putting these ideas into practice, maybe.
Exactly. Just something to get the ball rolling.